Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go.
Vibe. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It is Friday, August 23rd, 2024. Vibe. It's what we all go for. We want a good vibe, especially on a Friday. Getting ready for the weekend. August 22nd, 128 games into a Major League Baseball season. Jerry Dipoto, running the Seattle Mariners organization, says, you know what? I think we need a new vibe. I think we need a different vibe. We're going to fire our manager. Hell yeah. I was so excited that there's someone who's more desperate than I am as an executive who would make a move that would, in comparison, make all of my managerial fires look brilliant. You might as well have a runway to try to win during a season if your team is underperforming in your mind. The Seattle Mariners are 64-64. They're underperforming in my mind. For crying out loud, they have the best rotation in baseball. And they have maybe the worst offense in baseball. We fixed it. We got Justin Turner and Randy Arozarena. We're good. They're going to bring their playoff experience, and they are going to get us over the edge. Before that, we're going to fire our hitting coordinator. See you later. Got rid of him in May. That's the reason why this team is not hitting. Mariners have a 10-game lead. It disappears. All of a sudden, rumors come out that there could be pressure on Jerry Dipoto. And about 48 hours later, the manager gets fired. The statements made by Jerry, I want you to understand how this happens. It's very simple. The owner of the Mariners, furious that his team is mediocre, furious enough that says to the GM in an exasperated tone, I've been the recipient of this conversation. What happened? What do we do? What are you going to do to change what's happening right now? In the baseball world, it doesn't work that way. Right now, changes rarely work. One of the biggest problems I had in my career is the first right now change did work. When we brought in Jack McKeon in the middle of May in 2003, and he went on to win the World Series, it doesn't often happen that way. Once in a while, never happened that way again for us, even though we fired probably 10 managers after that. But the reason in general that managers get fired in the May area, in the June area, is that there's enough time to go on a run to actually change the fate of your team. If you are a good president of baseball operations and your owner, let's say John Stanton, walks into your room and says, I want changes right now, you're supposed to say, listen, the disruption this will cause is far greater than the benefit that you will gain by a change like this. Scott Servais is a very capable manager. If you really want to examine what's wrong this season, we have not made the right moves from a player personnel standpoint. Jerry, are you saying it's your fault? Hold on, John. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we ought to fire the manager right now because this season can still be saved. Dipoto actually said this. It's almost staggering to me. And I'm going to tell you something when you're talking and you're firing people, just so you can not do what Jerry did, please. Collectively, we determined that our organization needed this. We needed to do something to create a different theme, a different, word of the day alert, vibe in our clubhouse. And here it comes in bold. I'm not trying to throw Scott under a bus at all here. Hold on, Coca, before we get back to the rest of the quote. You know how there's certain things that we say to you, like, don't say to be honest. Because if you say to be honest and then go on and say what you're saying, people will say, what are you talking about? Do you have to say to be honest to be honest? So if you're not saying to be honest, you're lying? This goes without saying. Well, then I just stop listening because you don't need to say it. I'm sorry to repeat myself, but please, I heard it the first time. I'm not trying to throw blank under a bus. Yes, you are. It's the only thing you're doing. You have put him squarely under the front wheels, and you've made it so he actually is going to get hit twice. And let me explain why. The first set of tires have now hit him. When you said that we need a different theme, different vibe. Okay, great. I'm not sure why you decided that at 64 and 64. Where were you when the team was 10 over in the division, leading by 10? How was the vibe? Was it positive? You know, there's a lot of negative vibe in winning clubhouses. Who cares? That's such a misconception. All winning clubhouses all love each other and there's great vibe and everyone's happy. It's a bunch of horse hockey. Here's what happens in a winning clubhouse. You win games on the field. The players play together and work together on the field. Oh, this is the greatest bunch of guys I've ever had around me. I love these guys. You hear that from a bunch of losing teams. Oh, these guys, man, they get along. It's just makes me want to snuggle. Well, you're about 20 games under 500. Yes, but we love each other. Who cares? But then all of a sudden, Houston gets HOTTT. Mariners can't score, which they couldn't score before. Good enough rotation. Hard to press your rotation and win games 1-0. Anyway, now, August 22nd, we're going to get a different vibe. So, Servais was thrown under the bus because the vibe comes from the manager. Wink, wink, wink. I'm winking if you're not watching this on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. Do you know how much impact the manager has on the vibe in the clubhouse? Oh, because the manager chooses the music vibe. Nope. The manager has a very good handle on the pulse of the team. And if the manager is all tense, the players are going to play tense. No, that's not it either. Hold on. I'm going to think of it. It'll come to me how the manager creates the vibe. And this is coming after decades of saying, oh, I think we need a new voice in the clubhouse. I think we need a new vibe. I get this. This is standard operating page 2 of the cover your ass. I don't want to get fired, so I'm going to fire this guy handbook. I get it. But it really is total poppycock. But here's where the back end of the wheels hit Servais. The front wheels get him right now. Back end. How about this at the end of the season? When the Mariners don't make the playoffs, which they're not going to make, they're 7.5 back of the wild card, 5.5 back of the Astros. It's over. I'm sorry. Here's when the back half hit, because at the end of the season, Jerry Dipoto stands up and says, you know, maybe it's something that we should have done earlier. I like the way that we finished. I like the things I was seeing inside the clubhouse. I like the atmosphere created. That's another total FU to Scott Servais, isn't it? Oh, things got better now. We weren't good enough. We couldn't turn it around. Should have done it earlier. I like when people make a decision. It's a good decision. And then they always say, man, I should have done that earlier. And if you make a decision that ends up bad, man, I can't believe I made that decision. Let me give you another funny quote that Jerry said. I've known Scott for 3 decades. We were teammates as players. We worked together in all these different cities. I trust him. I believe in his baseball. These are all the positive things. I fired so many people. I don't need to go through the resume of the people I've fired or to go through all of the great things that he's done. I'm firing him for a reason. Maybe he went into him and said, "Hey, Scott, man, I love you, man. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I'm so sorry. I'm making this all about me, but what am I going to do? What would you do?" Stanton said to me, "John, it's either you or me. I got a family to feed." So Jerry ends with, "I can't stress enough how tough this day was for me, and tougher for him, frankly." What a jackass. Is that Rick? Seriously? Don't ever, when you're firing someone, say, "Oh, this is so tough for me, having the worst day." That really makes him feel great, doesn't it? And how close exactly were they that Scott Servais found out he was being fired the way I found out, on a damn text alert? Scott Servais found out in a rumor in The Athletic that he was being fired. Boy, they really must have been close. Close personal buddies. I'm not trying to impugn you too much, Jerry. Don't be too upset. I'm just saying, come on, man. Be better. Give us some quotes that outline the pressure that you felt. It's okay. Tell the owner to stand up and own it. Because this sure as heck fire can't be your decision. You think in a vacuum, if you own the team, that you would make this decision with your best friend on August 22nd? Give me a small break. I'm just looking for a teensy-wincy bit of forthrightness. It's not coming. Dan Wilson's moved into the chair. Way to go, Dan. Great guy, actually. He is the interim manager, taking over a team that has zero chance, but it's an opportunity. I'm happy for him. Wait to see. Dan, you'll interview for the permanent job, but you will not be named the permanent manager by the Mariners. Wait to see. The theme that interests me today in baseball, really in sports, is how teams deal with seasons gone wrong. Because it's more definite than death and taxes. Although those are pretty definite. But I'm going to say what's even more definite, because there's a lot of people who take a lot of medicine, get a lot of plastic surgery, feel like they're living forever. And I'm not sure if they are dead, when they die. It's all very strange to me. I'm going to say what's more common and more definite than even the sunset in the West is that there will be underperforming teams in a sports league. Guaranteed. How you deal with that is what separates good management from bad management. How you evaluate what is making that team bad. I've got a great way to evaluate the Anaheim Angels of Los Angeles and to tell you why they're bad. They are a bad team because their owner is a bad general manager who does not call himself the general manager. The Anaheim Angels are a bad team because Arte Moreno continues to make believe that someone can run that team independently and that he will allow it. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim are a mediocre organization because they can't get the best baseball people to work there, because they all know that Arte Moreno is making all the decisions and he cannot be convinced the way other owners who meddle can be convinced. He cannot be convinced when he is being ridiculous. The Angels announced that they are giving an extension to their figurehead general manager, Perry Minasian. And do not get upset that I'm calling him that. I'm trying to explain that that's what he is in the industry, an administrative figurehead who everybody knows can't be evaluated. That's the worst part about working for Moreno, is you can't be evaluated whether or not you're good because you haven't done anything. It's like people trying to figure out whether Kim Ng was a good general manager. There's no way to know. I won't tell you she's bad. I won't tell you she's good. I can only tell you that she wasn't the general manager. Perry Minasian is the same thing. They just gave him a 4-year extension. And then the statement was fabulous. This is Arte Moreno. Over the last 4 years, Perry and his baseball operations staff have begun to lay the foundation for a bright future of Angels baseball. Horse hockey. Sorry, that wasn't in the statement. We have been impressed by the steps Perry has taken to infuse our major league team with young and exciting talent while also revamping our player development process. We believe this extension will allow him to continue the vision of building, here it is. You can't shake a stick at a statement without this statement. Did that come out right, Coca? 4869. You can't find a statement that doesn't have these 2 words in it. Ready? Sustainable success. I didn't even, prepping for the show, I didn't even focus on those 2 words. I don't know why. We believe this extension will allow him to continue the vision of building sustainable success throughout the Angels organization. So he has an initial 4-year deal. He gets this 2-year extension. I misspoke, not 4. He gets this 2-year extension in order to continue all of these things. A couple of comments that you should know when you have a baseball team. Turning around a farm system, getting young players to perform on the big league level is not a 2, 4, or 6-year process. It is something that requires, if you don't have the people in place, which the Angels don't because they're not allowed to, it is impossible. You're being set up to fail. I understand why Arte would say the things he said because he thinks that you're all going to believe it. He's been talking about building sustainable success for as long as the Marlins organization. And man, I've been talking about that since 2002. Sustainable success is the key word for any organization that doesn't have sustainable success, which brings me back to my first point. Sustainable success in sports, it's hard to come by. For crying out loud, Meatloaf, I just got an email at davidsamsonpodcast.com just yesterday, 2 days ago, from a Boston fan and listener of the show telling me that John Henry is an absolute disgrace. I'm sorry to keep defending John Henry, but I just keep looking at the rings on your finger wondering, how is it that you are not realizing? What's the definition? Are you comparing the Angels to the Red Sox? Obviously you can't. Who exactly compares to the Angels? The A's? I don't think so. A's have had more success than the Angels. The only reason to announce an extension the way Arte did, given where the Angels are and how they're going to miss the playoffs again, how they have not even been competitive in any of his 4 years in the role, none. They've never done anything. I don't think they've won more than 77 games, and they're going to lose over 90 again this year for sure. Their farm system stinks. I really don't even know. I don't even know what Arte was talking about because he's unwilling to give the statement that he should have given. Hi, my name is Arte Moreno. I know that you are concerned that we've got 6 more years left of Trout. I know that you can't stand Anthony Rendon, but boy, when we signed him, you were all excited. I'm sorry that Shohei did not want to stay here, but we did our damnedest and frankly thought he was going to stay, which is why we didn't trade him last year. We've put together great stability in this organization with the hiring of Ron Washington, pairing him with Perry Minasian, and I commit to you, we are going to have a team that you can be proud of here in Anaheim. Too funny. I can't even do it with a straight face. Hold on. Let me do a better one. Here we go. Hi, my name is Arte Moreno. I'm trying to sell this team, but I can't seem to get a high enough price. In the meantime, I'm going to keep screwing it up. I'll put a little extension on this guy. I'll add that guy, trade away this guy, not trade that guy when I should have. My team, my rules. I'll do whatever in the HE double hockey sticks I want because I'm the owner. So piss off. That'd be a good one. You could say it that way. Oh, let me give you a nicer one. Hi, I'm Arte Moreno. You may not believe this, but I care about your team as much as you do. I am livid, despondent beyond compare with the record that we've had. Knowing that we have Mike Trout 6 more years gives me reason to believe that we will have the type of success that will make Mike proud. The type of success that will make Anthony proud. And Ron Washington and I, together with Perry, are the 3 legs of the stool that will bring you sustainable success. I could keep going. I am going to keep going. Something happened yesterday that needs to be explained. You're going to read about it. The Women's Soccer League. Big news. Big, large. They signed a new CBA. You didn't know they had a CBA, did you? You didn't know that league, the NWSL, because all you hear about is all the abuse and the problems they have. And then we did a segment that Bob Iger, the guy from Disney trying to find his own successor yet again, and Willow Bay, his wife from Inside Stuff, who's now a professor of journalism, or the dean of a journalism school, that they bought into Angel City FC of this league with a valuation of $250 million. To which we said, that seems a little high. Given that the valuations of the other teams, according to Forbes, which you know is always right. Okay. San Diego wavered like at 90. The Portland, what is their name? The Portland Thorns at 65. Even the New York, New Jersey team stinks. 48 million is what they claim it's worth. Who knows? The only thing we know is Angel City was valued at 250 in its recent transaction. Well, wouldn't you know it? The CBA, which is a collective bargaining agreement negotiated between players and owners. In the middle of an agreement, which they had, they basically ripped it up and did a new one. And they made some epic changes to their league. So pay attention, Major League Baseball. Pay attention, NFL and NBA. Because all of you, the way you do it, you got it wrong. The NWSL has the ticket. They've decided to eliminate the draft and to make it that players cannot be traded without their approval. Puts a little tear in my eye. Player empowerment. Letting your employees know that we are behind you. We're going to raise your minimum salary. You have no idea how rich you're going to be. The minimum right now is $35,000 a year. We're going to raise it to $48,000 next year. $48,500. Now, by the time we get to 2030, the minimum will be $82,000. I'm not yucking on making $82,000 or $48,000 or $35,000, but let's not sit around and think that all of a sudden this is a successful league. Don't be swayed by people saying, hey, minimum salaries are jumping 135%. Don't be swayed by people who use percentage arguments that way because it's starting from such a low place. It ain't hard to go up by 135%. You don't ever want your salary to go up by 135%. It means you're being underpaid. Salary cap in that league used to be 2.75 mil. No, we're going to move it to 3.3 million. And don't you worry in this new CBA. By the time we get to 2030, you'll get to spend $5 million on your team. All right. I'm getting there. What else do we get in this CBA? Because it seems pretty cool. So far, the mins are going up and the salary cap's going up. What else? Give me something good. All right, we'll give you something good. How about this? We're going to expand parental leave and childcare benefits. Very good. We don't want to have what happened in the WNBA. We don't want any issues about any women who decide to have a family. We're going to make sure you're fully benefited up. You mean like every other company? Yeah. Okay, good. We'll take that. What else? Charter flights. Oh, it's a dream come true. Thank you. Thank you. That's very important. Well, but only up to 6 trips a season. Oh, but that's a great start. That's very good. Oh, we want to sign this CBA. This is the greatest CBA ever. What else? What else is there? Wait, this has to be the big thing. Why did you buried the lead? You're saying that we're getting rid of the entire draft and that we're going to be exactly like global soccer? Hold on, let me think about this. If there's no draft, why does the NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, why do they have a draft again? Because it's good TV on ESPN? No. Tell me again. Oh, I know why you have a draft. To make sure you don't have a super league. To make sure that there is competitive balance. To make sure that people in markets all have the belief that they can win. And if they don't, it's because their front office stinks or their coach stinks. Global soccer. Global soccer. What do they do differently? Oh, you can be Todd Bowley, spend a couple bill on players and stink. You could be Man City and win it pretty much every year. You can be PSG, win it every year. Wait, wasn't there something in global soccer about a super league? That's what's going to happen here. You really want that? The commissioner, Jessica Berman, is talking about how this agreement revolutionizes the game. What game? Women's soccer in the U.S.? You're certainly not revolutionizing collective bargaining. She thanked the players and the representatives and the Players Association. Everybody, they're celebrating this because their transfer program and their draft and their way to get talent is going to mimic what FIFA rules are. I understand why you want to bring international rules to domestic soccer. The problem is, who are you competing with? Who is your audience? It'll be easier for the best players to come play in the U.S. now. There's no restrictions. There's no nothing other than a salary cap. Nah, we'll do a messy workaround. We can work around the salary cap. If we can get a really big star, we'll give her a piece the way Messi got a piece of any sort of subs on Apple TV Plus. We'll figure something out. But in the meantime, I want everyone to know, please vote for this, that we're going to turn into a team without competitive balance. Do you know who is number one on the yes vote list? Who would you guess would want this to be the case? Just, I'm throwing it out there. If you were to guess, who would you say would be the most interested in a CBA that gives an advantage to teams with money? Anybody? How about LA? Strange. You get a $250 million valuation. You get new ownership. And all of a sudden, the new CBA is going to be quite advantageous. You wait to see. You're going to read some pundits say this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. You're going to read that this will benefit teams from the Orlando Pride to the Seattle Reign. And I'm going to tell you that you wait to see. This will benefit the top. This is the politics that you all don't want to see at the DNC. You want to see at the RNC, whether you are red or whether you are blue. You're trying to figure out, is this party for you? Well, there's a lot of owners in the NWSL who are going to find out with this new CBA whether the joke was on them. Let's take a break. We come back. I watched season 2 of a show. I cannot wait. And then one of you asked a great question, which we're definitely going to talk about. There's a few more things happening on the baseball field that are interesting to me. We are approximately 21 minutes away from the weekend, but we've got a jam-packed 21. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It's David Samson on a Friday. If you're watching us live, Nothing Personal with David Samson, please hit subscribe. If you're listening to the show, go to YouTube and hit subscribe. Plus, keep downloading the show. If you're on the DraftKings Network, thank you. Thank you very much. Live on the DraftKings Network. We're not live on the DraftKings Network. We are on the DraftKings Network at 10 a.m. This has been a banner week for movie watching and TV show watching. Anytime you can average about 2 per night, you are watching some content. I was excited to see the second season of Unstable because the first season caught me right with Rob Lowe and his son, John Owen Lowe. I'm a Rob Lowe guy from the 80s, from the Brat Pack. I'm a Rob Lowe guy from West Wing. I'm a Rob Lowe guy from Wayne's World, from Tommy Boy. I'm just a Rob Lowe guy. Rob Lowe is now doing something right because it's not possible he has a son that's the age of John Owen Lowe. But together, they wrote a show. And the first season came out, and it's a blow-by show. A blow-by show is 22 to 24-minute episodes when there's about 10 episodes, 8 to 10 episodes in a season. And you sit down, and you don't stop. And it's a one-sitting blow-by show. It's hard to do 10 episodes of 42 minutes each, but the 20-minuters, I think you'll agree, which is why many people choose that as their length. You can really engage with the whole season. The concept is a son in the shadow of his dad. The dad is not a movie star. The dad is a rich, eccentric tech guru, company founder, brilliant man, played by Rob Lowe. And his son is equally adept at the tech side, but not at the power side. So this TV show talks about their relationship and how all Rob wants to do is be a dad, how all John wants to do is to be under the shadow and out from the shadow of his dad. And it creates what is a very normal, almost banal set of facts, and it makes it funny. Rob Lowe still has it if you can get over the jealousy of how good he looks. It's called Unstable. Check it out. All right. Thank you, Coca. Go ahead.
You know what I want? I want to talk to Samson.
So you want to talk to Samson? The questions are coming fast and furious about things, and I'm loving them. Let's get right into this. Remember, so you want to talk to Samson, you can get into Twitter at David P. Samson. You can get on davidsamsonpodcast.com and contact me with a question. You can, I don't know what else you can do. Instagram, maybe. Find a way. Pony? Airmail? What goes into a decision to option a trade deadline acquisition? Yes, I'm talking about Trevor Rogers. I don't know why we chose this one. I do know it's a great topic, but there's nothing friendly about that question. There's no hello. There's no how are you? How you feeling? Thanks for doing the show. I love the show. Throw me something. I guess you were so cocky about the subject matter because Trevor Rogers was a Marlin. Wasn't my Marlin. Trevor Rogers is a player who the Marlins traded to the Orioles. The Orioles traded back 2 major league prospects, Connor Norby and Kyle Stowers. Forget how they're playing in the big leagues right now. It doesn't matter. It was a relatively, what pundits thought was a heavy deal, potentially better for the Marlins. The Orioles, who need pitching because they've been so injured, bringing in a starting pitcher like Trevor Rogers when you couldn't get Garrett Crochet, you couldn't figure out a way to get Jack Flaherty. This was an interesting trade for the Orioles because they have Trevor Rogers not just for the end of this year, but he gets to pitch them for 2 more years before he's a free agent. So the Orioles are not looking at a trade like that as just a rental. They're looking at it as a rental plus. Rental plus is when you have someone for your playoff year, then you have them for 2 more years, but you control it, meaning you can non-tender the player and you have no financial obligation. You have the option to have a financial obligation. If you sign a guy and trade for a guy who has a long-term contract, that's not a rental. That's not a rental plus. That is a player who you are stuck with. You've got him. When trade deadline moves are made, owners and morons look at the winners and losers and say, okay, I'm a loser. I got to do something about this. There is no good GM or team president who looks at any list of winners or losers and puts himself in the category in which they find themselves online. You know the reason why you made the trades. You know that evaluating the trades, and I've tried to tell everyone this on this show forever, you cannot make that list after the deadline. Because Trevor Rogers is in the minor leagues, because he had basically a 7 ERA in the 4 starts since the trade, does not make the Orioles the loser of that trade or the Marlins the winner of that trade. It means the Orioles got a player who they knew they had the ability to be flexible with because A, he had options, B, he's got control. So C, why would we ever reward mediocrity? It's one of the biggest mistakes that teams make is they allow mediocrity and crap to continue. When you keep giving the ball every 5 days to someone who's not getting it done, what are you saying to the other players on your team? Forget what are you saying to the fans. What are you saying to the other players? Don't worry, we're fine with failure. I was once in the kitchen, Coca. Side note. In the clubhouse kitchen, there were 4 of us sitting there. And I'm happy to tell you who. It was Giancarlo Stanton, Ricky Nolasco, and AJ Ramos. I don't know what year it was. And there were 4 of us at a table. I don't know whether it was a rain delay. I don't know whether it was a pregame. It likely would not have been postgame because we all would have wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. So I don't remember. But I do remember clearly this conversation was about, and this is before we traded Ramos at a deadline. So I can't remember what year this would have been. Maybe Ramos was traded in 17, or it could have been 16. I don't know, Coca. I'm sorry, AJ, that I've even forgotten. But we were talking about needs of the team. We need more offense. We need more pitching. And I was talking about how we look at the deadline, when I think we're in it, when I don't think we're in it. And then the question was asked of me, how far do you go to defend your move? I love that. He was traded July 28th of 17 to the Mets. So this may have been early in the season, the 17th of 2017. And it's funny, my memory of just those 3 at the table, Coke, and now that I think about it, would make sense that Jose was not there because he was often a participant in those conversations. He loved to hang out in the food room, and there'd be just people talking in there and players talking in there and us executives sitting in there talking. The question was, how do you ever admit, and we were talking about this as players, but also as executives, when do you admit you're not good enough? When do you admit that you can't play anymore? When do you admit that the trades you made are bad? When do you allow the public to see your vulnerability? It's a very interesting conversation, and we touched on it to start this show. We've talked about it with Jerry Dipoto and with Arte Moreno. The strength that you need to send out your main deadline acquisition when your team is scuffling because they don't have any pitching. Your ability to recognize that he was not helping you win games. And it doesn't matter what the fans or the media says about you, the executive. You've got a chance to be a really good executive. When you sit with that player and say, listen, we're a performance-based business. You're not performing, we're sending you down. The beautiful part is that there are players who would not expect that conversation at all. At all. Because they would think, hey, I'm the big acquisition. I'm the big free agent signing. I'm the big trade acquisition. I'm untouchable. Sometimes the best message you can give is to an untouchable employee to make sure that the entire organization knows that we've got a system in place. We've got priorities, goals, processes, and if you don't follow them or accomplish them, you pay the price that everybody would pay. AJ Ramos would say to me, you're not consistent, though. You don't do it right because anytime you give money to a draft pick, he gets way more chance to be successful than I do. I was a low-round draft pick. I couldn't have a bad outing or you would have gotten rid of me. I think about those words all the time because he's totally right. Totally right. The most brilliant executive would be able to ignore whether or not there was a huge signing or whether you were a high draft pick or whether you were an important part, supposedly, of the team's future and focus on the evaluation of what you see in front of you. I give credit to the Orioles. It is not easy. It requires ownership approval when you send out Trevor Rogers. It requires a come to Jesus meeting with your staff, with your scouts, and you are dealing with all of these constituents as you make a decision like this. Now, he's going to come back, don't get me wrong, but it's still a big move. I appreciate the question. Nothing personal pick of the day was brought to you by DraftKings yesterday. We had the Rockies beating the Nationals in Corbin, because that's what we do on Corbin Day. Well, guess what? We're now 11-5. Corbin, bless his soul, give him the credit. He pitched great to the second worst team in baseball. It counts. We lost. We're 108 and 113, back to 5 under. Corbin Day has still been a profitable day for us during the course of this season, both in record and in units. If you are looking to keep track of where we are, go to davidsamsonpodcast.com and you will find every pick of the day, every wait to see, every movie, everything. We've talked about the Mariners. They've got a game today. Big game. Big set of series coming up. They're playing the Giants right now. And then they play the Angels, I think. Not their rival. The aforementioned stinky Angels. When you make a managerial change, you do it before your best pitcher pitches. You do it before a game that you expect to win because you want the new era to start off on a positive. Old habits die hard for me. I've got the Mariners winning the World Series in the preseason. I'm not ready to say they're not going to win the World Series. I'm only going to say that they won't get into the playoffs, and I've yet to see a team win the World Series that's not in the playoffs. But you never know. This could be the year. This could be our moment. But under Dan Wilson, Castillo will get his first win. Mariners over the Giants. Did you place your bet with DraftKings on Rookie of the Year in the National League? You know you can get Paul Skeens for only minus 130 now? Do you know that my preseason pick, Jackson Merrill, is minus 105? Do you know the starting pitcher for the Cubs on Saturday against the Marlins, Imanaga, who's better and more important than Skeens or Merrill, is plus 10,000? Now, don't get me wrong. Jackson Merrill is an outstanding position player for a team that is currently in the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. Paul Skeens started the damn All-Star game, and he is a unicorn in theory, given his ability to command the zone with 4 pitches. I'm in. Here's where I'm out. There has been so much talk about Paul Skeens. Will he be shut down? Will he not be shut down? The impact of him winning Rookie of the Year, coming in second in Rookie of the Year, because big impact, you get a full year of service. The Pirates have been saying the right things, which is, hey, we don't have an innings limit, really. We're just figuring it out game by game. They're lying to you, but that's good. It sounds sounds right. The Pirates, if they haven't made the decision to shut Skeens down, have made a mistake. They haven't made a decision to limit his innings. Last night he went 6, but they were stressless. That's what people like to say. Oh, it doesn't count. We look deeper. We look to see whether or not there was deep counts and men on base and pauses and concerns and stress on the arm, totally ignoring the science and the medicine of it, which is it's not about that. It's all. That's never been once proven to me by any doctor that I had. Not one doctor. Oh, these are high stress innings. High stress innings can make that arm snap more than low stress innings. Doc, I thought you said any pitch, there could be a snappage. Well, yeah, but the high stress innings, maybe they're gripping it a little longer. That's not how the conversation goes. The reason I was asking whether or not you've put a bet in is that Imanaga at plus 10,000. God, that seems to be valuable to me. Skeens at minus 130. You're saying get it, because it used to be minus 2,000. And I'm saying, I think Skeens ought to be a plus right now. He had his moment, no doubt. The Pirates had their moment, no doubt. The moment's gone. Saturday, I want you to watch Imanaga. Just watch him pitch. He pitches for the Cubs. You'll watch what he does with the Marlins. You and 42 of your closest friends will watch that game. God, Coco, we used to love having the Cubs come to town. We always thought when the schedule would come out, we would say to baseball, you get to ask for who you want to face on weekends. In the beginning of my career, I always wanted the Cubs during the week because I said, all right, having the Chicago Cubs come to Florida during the week means we'll get higher attendance during the week when otherwise we'd have low games, and we don't need to waste a weekend where we get high attendance on such a good opponent. And then I realized that nobody draws anybody at any time. So then we changed and said, let's get the Cubs during the weekend because we have our best chance to potentially have increased attendance. Of course, that didn't work either. Cubs over the Marlins. The Cubs are funny. How are they doing? They're right in the race. Craig Counsell has them right where they want to be. They look to be right there with Seattle. Disappointing. No chance of making the playoffs, but you never know. They could win the World Series. The Cubs made a good deadline deal. Were you happy with that? Remember how when the Rays traded Paredes for Chris Morel and everyone said, listen, this is a very interesting buy-sell trade. Very popular comment in baseball. Oh, we're buying and we're selling. We're both. We are the new age of executive. We're not going to know. We're not going to tell you whether we think we're in it this year, whether we think we're going to be competitive next year. Forget all that. We're going to buy and sell. We're going to go left, right. No one will know the difference, hopefully, including our owner who's doing the evaluating. How about Sunday's game? Did you see the Mets beat the Padres? I root against the Padres. I want the Padres to lose every game until AJ Preller gets let go. I'm bitter. I'm not over it. You know this. And I'm not a grudge holder, actually, Coca. And I want to be a little more positive as we get toward the end of the week. And it's been a week, that's for sure. Next week is going to be even a crazier week. But here we go. The Mets started a 4-game series against the Padres with the victory yesterday. With 3 games remaining, the Mets are looking for a potential sweep because that is a way to make up ground both on the Braves and to try to catch the Padres, who are tied with the Diamondbacks leading the wild card, and only a few games back of the Los Angeles Dodgers. On Sunday, they will have who I think is their best pitcher, Quintana, pitching, and at worst, they'll be going for the split, which they have to get. If they're going for 3 out of 4, they have to get it. If they've won the first 3, then you've got to sweep. Either way, the Sunday game for the Mets is critical, far more important than any game. That's why we're taking the Mets on Sunday, because they're on this road trip where they have to go to San Diego. They get to end this road trip, Coca, I believe, against the White Sox. I may have it wrong, Coco. The schedule of the Mets is such that their next 7 games matters greatly as we head towards September, and I believe in them. I think they're playing the Padres, then they have to go to Arizona, which are the 2 teams, and then they do go to Chicago. That's it. This is big. That's why we're going for them Sunday. So just to review, we're taking the Mariners tonight because they want to get Dan Wilson his first champagne shower. We're taking the Cubs over the Marlins on Saturday night, and we're taking the Mets over the Padres on Sunday. That's 3 picks. We can come back on Monday, which we will, only 2 games under 500. Wow, that would be something. All right, as I close up this week, I wanted to put a bow on what many of you may not have watched, what some of you may have watched as it relates to the conventions. And I want to remind everybody that preaching to the choir is fun. It makes you feel good, but that is not where success lives. Success lives in preaching to the undecideds. It's getting people who don't know about your show to love your show. It's getting people, when I get an email, if someone says, I love your show, great, find me someone who doesn't, get them to give it a try. When speeches are given to partisan crowds, the expression is preaching to the choir. The reason why you do it is you want to do it for momentum. You want to do it because it feels good. The reason I'm not a big fan of preaching to the choir is that does not help me get to the result I want. And whatever result you want, the best way to get it is to grind in front of people who look at you with contempt, with wonderment, and question every syllable that comes out of your breath. That's the whole concept of business, isn't it? You're trying to get customers. You're trying to keep customers. The conventions are 2 weeks of keeping customers. Now it's time for each party to go get new customers. Find the voters and get people to vote, and I know you will. Have a safe, great weekend. We'll be back Monday. You can bet your bippy. It's just business. This is nothing personal.